So, welcome to the session on identifying and obtaining your perfect clients. Another way of terming this is about identifying our customer avatars, segmenting our customers, clients, patients, insert whichever term you feel most appropriate with and most comfortable with, because to be honest, it doesn't make that much of a difference. But the key is it's about working to understand who are the people, persons that I feel are perfect for me and that I am perfect for them. So this session will run through and give a bit of an understanding as to, well, what does that term actually mean and why the term perfect clients? Tackling some of those key phrases. I can treat anyone that's injured. I can treat anybody that wants to get stronger. And then giving you some tips and clues and some practical help about how do you find the information which you need in order to help you identify the perfect clients, practical steps and examples there. And likewise, then that translation is, well, what does that then mean? And how do I then start to obtain them? Now, all of this fits in again with the one-page business plan, that 10-step plan, those 10 boxes. So if you haven't already, make sure you have a look at that session, make sure you download the template, because all of this links and flows through. In particular, if you view nothing else, then make sure you look and understand about the value proposition side of it. Because where this works beautifully is the value proposition is, this is the value that I provide to this particular client base or this particular customer. And you may have more than one value proposition and you may have more than one client base. And the two of them are intertwined. So if you've already defined your value proposition, hopefully you should find this section easy or easier. But certainly once you've done it, then have a look back again at your value proposition to see, are the two still aligned? Do they join up? Does that all make sense? So, why the term perfect client? What does it mean? And do they even exist? So, what it means is that those who you get the best results from in the best way. For example, you have a good rapport and they respond to what you say. Now, what's interesting here with the perfect client is there are those two sides to it. There's what you feel is the perfect client that you want. And likewise, there is the perfect client that thinks you are the perfect person for them. So there's two sides of the coin. And the reason why I say that is I know there was someone that they came out of the NHS and had done some work and had done some training and wanted to do this all-encompassing personal training, strength and conditioning, performance enhancing, as well as then treating injury and rehab as well. They wanted to focus on triathletes. That's what they loved. So that in their mind was their perfect client and they defined it. Now, actually, because of the local area and a number of other factors where they were, it was an aging population. So therefore, what the population locally needed and what was perfect for them was not a triathlon expert. So this person ended up creating the perfect client and creating a value proposition for the local market that generated the income that made the business survive, and that enabled them to then really double down and focus on that 20% of the client base, which is what in their mind were the perfect client base. And they were happy to make that trade-off to have those two perfect clients, those two value propositions, and understand it. And the reason why they did that was purely from a financial perspective. If they'd just been wedded to, oh, this is my only perfect client or perfect client base, and that's all I'm going to do, then at times, sadly, that can mean we run out of money. Other times it can be good to stick to your guns, not to feel you have to diversify too early, but every situation is different. And the greater work you've done to identify and do your analysis, then the clearer and easier those decisions will be. So, let's be honest, does a perfect client actually exist? Sometimes, but not often. But what it does is it just provides that useful starting point, that tool, just to get us thinking about it. So we've touched on this a little bit, but why do we even bother doing this process? Because if you market to everyone, you market to no one. It's such an important point. And if you cannot define what your perfect client is, then you will either struggle to attract the right clients, you will struggle potentially to attract enough clients, but certainly your life will be a lot harder and more frustrating. So even if right now you've got a busy book, a busy appointment book, then actually it's the case as to, well, are they the clients that you enjoy? And we know that there's a finite endpoint for clients when they achieve their goals, their outcomes. So we always need to make sure we've got that pipeline. And if we haven't got that pipeline focused in the right way, then at some point that pipeline is going to dry up. So to use injury as an example, but this again could be anybody that wants to get fit, anyone that wants to get strong, anyone that's injured is my type of client. Now, I probably hear this 95% of the time when we have coaching clients and we're engaging in talking to them, or just having conversations and just asking questions and getting feedback from various members and people that we work with. And what I find is always car analogies just work brilliantly. And let's have a look at this very, very handsome off yellow Volvo, looks like it's almost been tried to soup up, rather interesting special car. Now, the reason I've chosen Volvo is because it's such a polarized example, but it makes it really clear. Now, when Volvo make that car, do they say, well, who's your perfect customer? Well, anyone that can drive. And we're going to market this to anybody. Doesn't matter whether it's the 18-year-old boy racer, the 25-year-old that wants to impress the opposite sex, whether it's the 30-year-old that lives in a city and just wants something small and easy and compact that they can park. When you start talking about in those terms, you realize that, well, if you advertise to all of them, spend time marketing to them, it could work, but you'd be wasting a lot of time, money, and effort. And that message would be very confused. Whereas actually, when you think, right, well, what's the value that I provide to people? What are those core benefits? Can I phrase it in that way? Who are the perfect customers that I believe are right for this? Now, let me market to them. And if you market to them in the right way, that doesn't close off other people utilizing your services. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, Volvo. What are Volvo renowned for? Safety and space. Really loud and clear. So, who is the natural target market? Well, of course, families. In particular, families with young children where safety is really important. And you could go even deeper in terms of accountants, people working in insurance. You can really start diving down with some of those avatars and picking out the personality types and traits as to who might be the people that choose to drive a Volvo. Now, in particular, it seems to be if you've got a dog, you have to have one of those Volvo 4x4s. or, it used to always be a Range Rover or a Land Rover, and it's changed a bit now in terms of status symbols. However, you also see that 18-year-old that loves to go climbing every weekend, that just wants space, picks up secondhand Volvo, then likes it, grows to love it. So actually then when they can buy a new car, they buy a Volvo. Likewise, by buying a secondhand Volvo, you're enabling that owner to give them some cash to then buy a new car, which may well be a Volvo. But because they've talked about it in terms of, they haven't just said it's only available for these types of people, they've talked about it in terms of space and safety, then actually those cautious drivers of whatever age, whatever gender, those people that do just want space to chuck in mountain bikes or climbing equipment or surfboards or whatever it may be, well, actually, suddenly that becomes a really good car that's there. Now, another way of looking at it is, if you advertise to the wrong people and you get the wrong people in, you don't always give them the best experience. Imagine if you sold this car to an 18-year-old that just wanted 0 to 60 and to go as quick as possible. The chances are they're going to slate it. And if they're going to slate it, they're going to tell everybody it's rubbish. They'll probably put a bad review out that it's rubbish. Now, is that fair? No, it's not, because it's not designed for that. So that's always the slight danger. If we try and market to everybody, we can end up seeing people that actually it's not in our sweet spot. And sometimes we can think, oh, well, I probably need the money and I'm just going to have that extra session with them before I might think about referring them on. Before you know it, you end up in that cycle where you've got a bad review that you're very frustrated about. It's entirely not fair and it's not appropriate, and it can damage a lot of your hard work. So that's why it's really important. Now, we've talked a bit about scary stuff. Now let's talk about the positive side of things. Well, how do you actually do it? Now, the more detail here, the better. For each customer profile, what we've found works really well with people is to challenge yourself to get an A4 sheet of paper or metaphorical paper, online, Word, Google Sheets, whatever it might be. Give it a name and then start going into as much detail as you can. Who are they? What's their gender? Does it matter if they're male, female, age bracket? Do they have any children? Where are they from? Where do they live now? How do they dress? Where would they shop? Where would they buy their clothes? What's important to them? What do they do? What's their job, hobbies, interest? Where do they spend their time? What do they do when something goes wrong? What's their appetite to risk? What language works with them? Where do they operate? Do they hang out in clubs and social media, particularly groups? Are they online, offline, night, day? How does that work? How does that fit in with yourself? What's their personality? What's important to them? And as you can see, there's a raft of questions there. And what that enables you to do is to really build up quite a detailed profile and avatar for this. And actually then almost next to each bit, you can put whether, is this something I know or is this something I hypothesize? And to give you an example as to why we do this is, we had another coaching client and he was saying, when we talked about this, I deal with type A personalities that work hard and play hard. So they tend, lockdowns aside, they tend to work long hours and then they come online at about 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, tend to have an hour or so of maybe watching a bit of TV while they're checking their phone, etc. And they'll go to bed about 11:30, midnight. Okay. And then we looked at when was our coaching client posting content to engage with these individuals. Well, he was a family man. So he worked 9 to 5 to fit around kids' childcare. And he was posting between the hours of 9 to 5. And the interaction wasn't that great. So simple suggestion, well, why don't you post later at night? Or, and you can do it on Facebook, or you can use something like Buffer, or I can't think of some of this. There's a raft and a whole multitude of different social media schedulers that are out there. No one that probably stands out that's better than others. Probably just have a look and take a look and see what works for you. But actually nowadays, things like Facebook, through their business manager in particular, you can schedule across Instagram and Facebook very straightforwardly and easily. So actually started putting sessions and to go out at 11 o'clock at night. Suddenly gets those few hooks, gets the responses, because that gets in front of people at the right time. And then because those posts are getting interaction, that's then when the social media algorithms start kicking in and showing those to more of those people and similar people as well. For example, one, and you may have heard me say it, but I love it. We had another client that was, when they defined the person, their core customer, they joked about it. They said, it's the type of person that sits in the coffee shop in an afternoon and picks up the local Cardiff Life magazine or something like it and flicks through, and, very integrated into the community. So we said, okay, well, tell me more about that magazine. Oh, well, it's very expensive to advertise in. It's full of adverts. Okay, so it's full of adverts. So any advert that's in there gets a bit lost. But why is it full of adverts? Well, it's full of adverts because they need to make money, because publishers now are on a shoestring budget and they're desperate for really good content and they're desperate to survive. Now, you understand that target market and that audience, and actually you can write content that's really relevant to them about getting older, staying strong, keeping fit, avoiding injury, recovering from injury. Now, that's gold dust for them. So actually, if you reach out and approach the editors in the right way, perhaps give them a bit of an example of something you've written, well, then sure enough, you get a double page spread. We've done it before. We've had a double page spread in Women's Running magazine, all done through something like that. We've ended up with free stands at shows, all done to show off certain clients and work with them, particularly related on the SIF health side of things. So it's very achievable. And what that means is then, particularly when there's the know, like, and trust is how people buy from you, well, then you're seen and it's in a reputable magazine that they know, like, and trust. So that instantly gives you that. And compare that to a double page spread from someone to someone paying £250 for a tiny little advert in the back. Who's the person more likely to go to? Who are they going to think has the knowledge and can help them to achieve their goals and their outcomes? Now, equally, you might not, you might be starting out. You might be thinking, actually, I don't really know, and I need a bit of a starter. So first up, if you've got existing clients, use those existing clients, talk to them, ask them. You can just send out a generic email to all of your clients, but what you've got to be slightly careful there is just those that respond are those your perfect clients. If you look across your client base, the chances are you've got some clients that actually you probably don't think are your perfect clients, and you probably don't want more of them. And it would be sod's law, they're the ones that actually respond. So it needs to be targeted. And actually, all you need is probably no more than 5 is more than enough to give you a real flavor. So you could do that, offer slightly extended sessions in return for someone giving you a bit of information. Use some very targeted surveys. Help make it easy for people to respond and give you the information. And then ask them questions. Generally, if somebody gives us something, we feel psychologically obliged to give something back. So if someone asks us, have you got any friends that you think might need a massage or might want training? I'm asking you something directly, gets us a little bit defensive sometimes. Whereas if that's phrased as, how do I find more people like you? That's phrased as, oh, wow, you like me and you want more people like me. You've just given me a compliment. So therefore, of course, I'm happy to, you won't always get the answer you want, but more often than not, people will then feel obliged to reciprocate and give you something back as well. Ask your clients, how did you find me? Why did you choose me? We talked about it on the value proposition one of asking them, how would you describe what I offer? Because all of this gives you the language that your clients that you want to attract and want to work with, it gives them that language that resonates with them and they understand it. And then everything just starts to work so much better when that happens. Now, a few questions that we often have at this stage. So let's cover them off, preempt them. Can I have more than one customer avatar, segment, profile? Yeah, you can. We normally recommend that you match it to the value propositions. So we normally say no more than 3 to 5 value propositions, and therefore no more than 3 to 5 customer avatars. Some of that depends quite how big a business you are and how many people, because obviously if you've got tons and tons of venues and clinics and appointments and people and customers, well then yes, it might be different depending on the area. But more often than not, 3 to 5 as a maximum. Ideally, start out with 1 to 2, test it out, see if it works, and go from there. How detailed should I go? Talked about it. Push yourself. Try and fill a whole sheet of A4. Just let your mind flow. You'll find it will be stop, start, stop, start, and then something will click, and then bosh, you'll come out with a raft of things. And then should I update it? Yes. Because as time changes and evolves, well, you'll be doing more training, you'll be gaining more experience, you'll be learning. What you offer and your value may change, your value propositions may change. So it may be then that your perfect client or clients changes as well, and those avatars need to just be tweaked. Likewise, other things will happen and go on in the world. We've seen that things can change at the drop of a hat. So actually, it may be that that completely flips things on its head, and you need to be able to think about things in a different way. So again, if you've got the headline side of it on that little one-page plan, then it's great just thinking, is that relevant? Do I need to update it? So this is probably one of the biggest questions is, well, how does it help me get clients? Why should I bother doing it? Now, it helps because it tells you where to prioritize and focus your efforts. So we've given you some of those examples already. For example, there is no point focusing on an amazing Facebook page with lots of lovely posts going out there if your clients are not on Facebook. And unless you've taken that time to truly identify it, you'd believe those lovely marketeers that tell you everyone's on Facebook and you should do this wonderful Facebook campaign and I'll help you out with it. We'll get you these brilliant returns. And you get some people coming in, yes, but they're not the right people. And they don't stick around and they don't value what you do, and you end up out of pocket, even if initially you thought that was great. When you realize the total cost, time, money, and effort put into that, it just wasn't worth it. When actually engaging with a local parish council, engaging with some local groups, that can be incredibly powerful. You position yourself in the local environment and the local network, the local community. And if that's where and how you get your clients, pay dividends 10 times more. And not only that, they'll be far better clients. They'll be the clients you want. Now, if it doesn't, the chances are, right back at the start, you've either chosen a profile that doesn't exist in your area, and too specific, which opens up, well, then do you go online? because you can guarantee there is every type of person out there, and then you might need to refresh and look at it and then understand, where can I access these people and the channels. But often it can just be those little tweaks and just testing and retesting. And likewise, you might create 3 to 5 profiles and you might feel obliged that you want to help those, but it might be 2 of them really stand out. And then you have that decision of, actually, do I focus on those and double down on those? Because that's what I'm getting so much success from. Always decisions. And just, it also gives you those ideas to be creative. Hopefully with some of the practical examples that we've talked about here, they just got those creative juices flowing. So you don't just think about the same old things that I have to do, which are all a bit flat and samey and boring. Mix it up, try new things, engage with people a different way. If it doesn't work the first time, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. There are some partnerships that we've developed, and actually some that we've developed recently, and one in particular that's arguably the strongest one now. It took me 2 years and multiple attempts to access the right person, to have built the trust, and for us to start doing some work together. Now that's longer term things, dealing with some bigger organizations and partnerships. Doesn't necessarily take that long at a much more local level, but actually, think creatively. Start viewing, well, how can I view, when you know that core customer that you want, then actually, well, other therapists may not have that specialism. Other personal trainers, exercise professionals. So if I buddy up with them and I give them certain clients and they give me certain clients, well, then it's a win-win all round. And suddenly they're not competition. Collaboration beats competition. So let's just recap. Detail works. Push yourself for it. Try those different variations, test it, ask the questions, relate it to your value proposition. And again, work with someone to help you refine it. Because it may well be the first time you do it, you might feel a little bit lost with it. Now, if you want feedback from me or us, then we can happily do that as well. And you'll see there are options on the website in order to book a session for that. And we can go through it. You've done so well to take the time to engage with this process, to listen this far, that actually you've just that last final 5% of polish can often be the difference between it really succeeding or just being another thing that it gets watched and then just gets put to the side and never gets used, and sadly doesn't see the light of day. It's not given that chance to succeed. A bit like the person that goes along to the first session, gets the exercises, and then never engages with the exercises and never goes back, and then they don't see the results that they want. And that's because for whatever reason, just something hasn't quite connected that's there. But actually, if they went to that second section, that just joins the dots. Suddenly there's the clarity that's there. And then just continue to iterate, play around with it, see what works. Likewise, follow us if you're not already, both SIF Health, a lot of tips on there around automations and process and saving time, SIF CPD, as you know, because you're here. And then feel free to always drop us an email with any questions you may have. Put a comment here as well. We'd love to hear feedback. We'd love to hear how you're getting on with this as well. So thank you for your time. Enjoy, and I can't wait to hear how you're getting on.